Hello everyone, my name is Justin Bennett. Today for our Health 530 class I'm going to be presenting my intervention, which is called Active Classroom, Healthy Classroom. This is going to be a school-based program with its main objective is to implement policies into the school system that require classrooms to take breaks of physical activity between lessons or subject changes. Now this is going to be a school-based program, and the main health focus is going to be to introduce physical activity into the school day. The target audience is going to be our grades 2nd through 6th, and this is primarily going to reach children of the ages of 7 to 11. The intervention / program is going to run the entirety of the school year. It's going to be something that's completed on a daily basis so that we can make sure that these kids are getting the adequate physical activity that is recommended to try to prevent future health problems. A couple of our desired outcomes for this program are going to be to increase the physical activity levels of children. Also, we're going to try to improve concentration and test scores. We're also going to try to decrease discipline problems. Now, the way this intervention is going to be designed is that during the school day, teachers are going to be required to give breaks of physical activity. Now, these aren't going to be, when most people think of breaks, they're thinking of, you have like nap time, or you have breaks where people can get up and go use the restroom or get water or do other things. These breaks are going to be time that is set aside so that teachers can introduce some kind of physical activity to the students. Now, when we're going to do this is going to be in between a lesson change or a subject change. That's why we're going to try to target the grades 2nd through 6th, because if you start getting into 1st in kindergarten, the lessons aren't really as defined, and you aren't really. It's just a totally different type of classes. And then once you get into 7th, 8th, and then into high school, the breaks come between classes because you have to switch classes, and you don't really have a recess or anything like that. And then once you get into high school, you don't have gym. So this is just going to be for the elementary children, and hopefully what we can do is by starting them early, we can get them on a good start to living healthy lives in order to reduce some of the problems that are caused by childhood obesity. Also, one of the reasons for the breaks in between the lessons or the subject changes is because even as adults, we don't like to sit still for very long. I know as an adult, I sit behind a desk most of the day for my job, and it drives me crazy. Every now and then I have to get up, I have to walk around, or I have to walk over to another part of the campus and talk to coaches or something just to break up the day. If anybody is forced to sit down and concentrate and just sit there and try to focus on one thing for too long, you're actually gonna have a harder time focusing than if you take these little breaks of physical activity, and then once they sit down, they're geared back up to learn. Not only will allow them to gear up for the next lesson or the next subject once we change, but also it lets what they just learned set in. In most cases, you can only remember the first 20 minutes of the information that was provided and the last 20 minutes of the information provided. So if we're asking young children from the ages of 7 to 11 to sit down for 2.5 hours straight and listen to a lesson, how much of that are they actually remembering, and how much of it is just going into space and they're not really retaining any of this knowledge? We also know that physical activity is proven to increase brain activity, and so therefore by adding in these breaks, we're also gearing the children's brains to be prepared for the next lesson so that the blood's flowing to the brain and everything's ready to work better than it did before the break. And then finally, one of the reasons we're doing this intervention is because children today are not getting the recommended amount of daily physical activity daily like they were many years ago. This is easily seen as a problem because you're seeing obesity rates and everything else, health problems increase. And so by taking these little short breaks during the day, we're giving children that much better of a chance to get their recommended daily physical activity. Again, the purpose of this intervention, active classroom, healthy classroom, is to increase the physical activity of children, improve test scores and concentration levels in the classroom, and also decrease discipline and other classroom problems. We're going to go ahead and base this school-based program in West Virginia, mostly because I am from West Virginia, so I know how the school system works in West Virginia better than in any other state. And also, West Virginia has serious problems with obesity and other health issues related to obesity in both children and adults. So I feel like this program could be very beneficial to a number of people. As far as the needs assessment goes, in West Virginia, children ages 6 to 15 spend on average 40 to 60% of their day participating in sedentary behavior. This means that they're either getting screen time such as playing on the computer, playing video games, watching TV, or they're just sitting still, and this includes their time in school. As we know, a lot of time in school, minus your gym classes or your PE classes and your recess, are spent stationary in your chair, trying to focus on what the lesson the teacher is teaching. We're also seeing in West Virginia that the obesity levels for the younger children, ages 2 to 4, are increasing, and this continues into the middle-aged children, while even though the young teens, their obesity levels are decreasing, but it's just slightly and not at a very quick rate. So this is a problem that we really need to get ahead of in West Virginia. As I mentioned, the children 2 to 4 year old have a 14% obesity rate, which ranks 21 out of the 41 recorded states on the state of the obesity report. When we're looking at children 10 to 14, you have an obesity rate of 18.5%. And that ranks 13th out of the 51 states that are recorded, which includes Puerto Rico. All these rates are from 2011, the most updated rates on the state of the obesity report. But if I had to make an educated guess, I would say that these numbers are even higher now instead of decreasing, because you look at the behavior that's not conducive to kids being physically active, and there's so much more of it now. Kids have their phones, they have new video games, or homework's being done on the computer and everything else, and you have, even in school, you have iPads being given out. So I'd say that these numbers are actually higher than lower. Childhood obesity causes many negative health effects on children, which including high blood pressure, increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes, breathing problems such as asthma, joint and liver problems, and there's also a greater chance of them developing a social or psychological disorder. This is just because your mental health is just as much affected by your physical health, and vice versa. And all of this information came from the CDC website. Getting back to the program, though, we know why we need the program, but now it's how are we going to implement this program. This program will be delivered through activities throughout the school day by teachers. And as I mentioned before, we're going to do short breaks. So what we're going to do is we're going to have teachers set up the minimum of 2 activities a day that go from 10 to 15 minutes. We're not asking for a lot of these teachers' times because we understand that there's already so much that teachers have to include in their day. They have to teach so many lessons. They have to teach this subject for so long and everything. So we don't want to take up a lot of their time. But what we want them to understand is that these children need these short breaks in order to perform better. as I mentioned, we're going to start. It's going to be done on a daily basis, and it's going to start. And it's going to run the entirety of the school year. How we're going to get the teachers on board with this is that we're going to have them attend workshops, and we're going to have a professional come in and teach them activities that can be used in the classroom. Now, they can do this for one. These activities can be one or two things. They can either be fun activities that are specifically just for fun and just to get the kids active, or they can be used as another educational tool. So if they're going from like a math lesson to a history lesson, or a history lesson to a science lesson, they can use an activity in between those lessons to transition. I feel like this would be a great way to not only get the kids active, but to also benefit from this time being spent. The budget is going to should be around $50,000. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's going to be county by county. In West Virginia, that's how all the schools are ran by the county board office. So we're going to give this chunk of money to the county, and then they're going to use 10,000 of it for the summer workshops I was talking about earlier. These workshops are going to teach teachers how to introduce these activities into the classroom, and in order for them to be effective, we're gonna have all the teachers go through the same workshop during the summer, or during the winter break, or even during the school year, whenever the county sees fit and can get everything arranged. And this way, all the teachers are learning the same things, and that way you're not having this teacher that's from this school learning new and better ways than this teacher in this school because they went to a different workshop, because maybe this teacher over here came from a school that had less money or something. We're also going to give the teachers $500 a year to buy resources. I mean, this can be anything that they need to complete the activities needed in this program. Now, at the end of the year, if they don't use all that $5 or $500, it's not going to roll over. It's not going to just go away. What we'll do is we'll just reset the $500 each year. So if the teacher only uses $250 of their $500 budget, we're just going to go ahead and next year, instead of doing the $500, we're going to just give them $250 to restore their $500, and then the rest we will put back into the $50,000 fund per county. That way, if an emergency comes up or something, or somebody else needs the money to keep the program going, we'll have extra money available. This money is either going to come in the form of grants or from partners. There are plenty of programs now that like to get behind kids getting physically active and stuff like that, so we can either try to get one of them to get on board and help out with the money, or we can apply for grants, because there's also so many grants that are used for schools and that a lot of people don't take advantage of. Now, when we talk about the resources, we're talking about like PE equipment, recess equipment. You can have balls and stuff like that the kids use in the classroom. And that's what this $500 will be for. It's going to be used for equipment to keep kids active in the classroom. Now, the teachers are also going to be able to go outside, use the recess equipment. They can use the gym equipment. They're not going to be constricted to just being in their classroom during all these activities. They're going to have free range as long as it's in their 10 to 15 minute time range and it's not taking out large portions of their day. They're going to have free range to do whatever they see fit to get these breaks in and get these kids physically active. One of the things we want to look at is why we're using physical activity. One of the main reasons that we want to use physical activity in the classroom is because it increases blood flow, which also increases brain function. A lot of people don't associate being physically fit and being physically active with increasing your brain function. One of these many psychological studies have been done, and your brain heats up just like the rest of your body when you do a lot of thinking. There have been studies that have put people in MRIs and had them work out puzzles and stuff like that, and then put other people in MRIs where they're just idling. And the people that are working the puzzles, their brain activity obviously is much higher, and therefore the heat signature from their brain is much higher. So just like the rest of your body, your brain needs blood to function correctly. And so physical activity, as we know, increases the blood flow. It also improves your cerebrovascular health. This is just your brain health. Like I said, physical activity helps all the body, not just the physical body. It helps your mental health as well. It also benefits glucose lipid metabolism, and which not only helps prevent obesity-related diseases, but it also provides nourishment to the brain. Now, all this information came from Psychology Today, so it is proven accurate. This is stuff that they know happens. Like I said, not only are you going to increase the physical activity levels, but you're also going to increase the concentration levels and the test scores. When these kids are better able to concentrate, their test scores are going to increase. When they're better able to concentrate, they're going to retain more of the material that the teacher is teaching. So this is just really an area that we need to focus on. Also, we all know that kids have a ton of energy. So by giving them these little breaks and letting them burn off some of this steam, you're going to decrease these behavioral problems. The kids are going to be able to sit still better because they're going to be tired. They're going to eat better in the lunchroom, which is going to help them focus better after lunch. There's just so many benefits from physical activity that doesn't get taken advantage of, especially when you have many schools that are trying to cut out like your physical education classes and your recess time because they think they need more classroom time, when really it's just the exact opposite. They need these kids to be more physically active. Also, one thing we also need to look at is that studies performed by Dills Morgan and Rothoff of Providence, Drew, and Seton Hall universities has shown that an additional 49 minutes of physical activity a week significantly improves test scores. So there is research behind this that says if you get these kids active, they're going to learn better, they're going to do better in class. Now that you know more about the intervention, and you know about the expected results, which we're trying to increase the physical activity levels of children in order to help prevent obesity and other health-related problems with weight. We're also trying to improve test scores and increase concentration levels in students during the school day. And then we're also trying to decrease classroom behavior and discipline problems. You may be asking, how are we going to know that this intervention is working? Well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a pre and post BMI, body mass index, in order to determine if keeping these kids physically active is helping prevent obesity. Now, by that we mean we do not want their BMI to increase. We do not want the post BMI at the end of the school year to be higher than the pre BMI, because it's not so much about we want these kids to lose weight, because many kids are at a healthy weight. We just don't want them to go into the unhealthy weight range. So as long as the BMIs do not increase, the program will be considered a success. Also, we want to look at the test scores. We can run in the introductory phase of this program. We can run a control group to see if this classroom that's not receiving the breaks during the day, compare their test scores to the classroom that is. We can also just see if overall, like throughout the past years, if we're doing second graders, if all the second grade classes before this one have done only so well on this test, and then all of a sudden the second grade class that we introduced the program to does better, then we know that we're getting somewhere. We're also going to use some just simple observations. Obviously, a teacher is going to know how a normal class is, as far as discipline goes, how it's going to go throughout the year. So she's noticing when this program is introduced that the discipline levels and the other behavioral problems are decreasing, or that kids are staying focused better and concentrating better, then we're also going to know that it's worked. These are just going to be through simple observations, so we won't have to send them out for any kind of statistical analysis. Whereas with the BMI and the test scores, we will, because we want to get a significant effect. And then finally, we're going to do a parental survey. We're going to send surveys home with the children, or have them come in when we have parent and teacher conferences and ask them how they think their kid's been doing this year. Like, they know their student better than anybody. So if the student that was introduced to this program is bringing home better grades than what they were used to, then we're going to know that the program was a success. I think this program has all the aspects it needs to be successful. I also think it's a program that somebody can get behind and really do a lot of good with, because obesity is not just a problem in West Virginia, it's a problem everywhere for children and adults. So if we can get these kids active now, we have a better chance of keeping them active throughout their adult life. Therefore, we're going to have less obesity problems all around, not just in children. I just want to thank you for your time today, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.